for the wealthiest people in this country. It was caused by a recession as a result of the greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior on Wall Street. And if those are the causes of the deficit and the national debt, I will be damned if we're going to balance the budget on the backs of the elderly, the sick, the children, and the poor.
Unexpected updates from the federal government. Millions of people may lose Medicaid coverage starting in 2023. There's a big change coming to Medicaid benefits. Economists and lawmakers are even urging that Congress approve more of the relief funds. A massive spending bill everybody has just passed in Congress. It will allow the states to kick some people off Medicaid starting in April. And according to estimates from the administration, this is something important to look at, because the reality is that millions of people are going to lose Medicare coverage. Medicaid is going to disappear. And since the crisis first began, enrollment in Medicaid, the health insurance program for low income, has already swelled 71 million to 90 million. So that's a 20 million increase. And so when the Biden administration first declared the public health emergency, it also barred states from kicking people off Medicaid. In a normal year, many people enroll in Medicaid, and many others leave as their income or circumstances change. States run routine checks on Medicaid members just to make sure they're still eligible for the program. So, and they don't want to throw out the people who are not. The public health emergency has halted the process. The recently passed spending bill would allow states to start kicking people off the Medicaid coverage April 1st. The federal government will also notify people and wind down extra funds to states for the added enrollees over the next year under this proposal. Before states remove Medicaid members, they are required to check patients' eligibility and notify people that are losing coverage. So, advocates have also raised concerns about how states will notify enrollees if they are being kicked off the program and what their options are. The effort will particularly challenge for some of the country's poorest people who may have not a stable home address or access to internet or phone services. This is a problem, and so you have to check the status. Because even an omnibus spending bill allows states to drop people from Medicaid starting in April 1st. It will most likely take a little bit longer. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid have recommended that states take a full year to reevaluate everyone in the program, although states are not required to follow that guidance. Many people who lose Medicaid will be able to find other health insurance programs through an employer, the Affordable Care Act marketplace, or in the case of health insurance, but up to 5 million people remain uninsured, which is a potentially devastating situation. Healthcare advocates urge people who are on Medicaid to make sure their contact information is up on date and that they check the mail frequently just to keep an eye out on their eligibility status before April 1st becomes happening. The bill also frees up additional funds to pay for more stable health insurance coverage for children in low-income households. It does so by requiring to keep those children on Medicaid for at least a year once they are already enrolled. So I actually agree with that, and I think it's a good idea for that to happen. But not only that, folks, listen to this. Even though there are several advocacy groups and even lawmakers worried about low-income households, including seniors, many agree that additional relief should be provided to help those that are struggling financially. And that's a really good idea, because family budgets could also even be more stretched in 2023 as we battle high inflation, fueled prices, and interest rates. Because that happens, a long list of temporary tax breaks were designed to shore up and even boost household wealth during the crisis. Taxpayers won't even see many of those same generous benefits on the tax returns this year, and there's a more return of a normal return if you have some key tax breaks. Analysts even say it's hard to say how much federal state income taxes could be for some households, but the amount will be sizable for many. And according to the most recent filing stats from the IRS, through the week of October 28th, the average tax refund was already $3,000 in 2022. That's up 14% from last year.
The Senate is often labeled the world's greatest deliberative body, a place where generations of titanic statesmen have asked the deep questions about America. Questions like, how do we balance individual liberty with the common good? What role should we play on the world stage? And how should tax depreciation affect a small restaurant owner who's buying a new fry-o-later? Anyone around the Senate would recognize that last query as the work of our detail-oriented, hometown-focused, economics whiz, the junior senator from Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey. Pat's entire sterling career, from the private sector to the House, to nonprofit activism, to the Senate, has revolved around the reality that economics is central to daily life. What can seem like dry details or esoteric issues can determine whether whole societies rise or fall, and whether hardworking families struggle or succeed. For 2 terms in the Senate and almost 2 decades total in Congress, Pat's commanding mastery of economic issues have had a massive, massive impact on his state and his country. Our friend takes particular pride, as he should, in his leading role in delivering the generational tax reform of 2017. Most people involved.
Typically, when you have debt discharge, the IRS treats it as taxable income. With student loan forgiveness, taxes work differently. In March, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan, which included a clause regarding student loan forgiveness, saying that any federal student loans that were discharged between 2021 and 2025 would not be considered taxable income in terms of federal taxes. Now, lawmakers are back in Washington for the predetermined midterm election sprint. Preventing a government shutdown will be the top legislative item for all lawmakers. The political environment has shifted over the past few weeks. This is impacted by a batch of legislative wins for Democrats earlier in the summer and signs the inflation-laden economy is improving. Democrats are now more confident than ever that they can stem expected losses in President Biden's first midterm elections. They are hopeful they can retain a majority in the Senate, while preventing Republicans from gaining a broad majority in the House. Passing a short-term spending bill before a deadline of September 30th at midnight, when the government funding is set to expire, is a top concern for everybody in Congress. The bill will need the support of Republicans in the Senate, and the 60 votes need to pass. Democrats want to demonstrate to voters they can govern responsibly and not allow a damaging shutdown. In the Senate, Democrats will also keep confirming federal judges nominated by Biden, with government funding set to expire at the end of the month. Both chambers are expected to pass some kind of stopgap funding extension in the upcoming weeks to avert the shutdown, and stopgap funding bills are known as Capitol Hill as a continuing resolution. The Senate Appropriations Chair, Patrick Leahy, a Vermont Democrat, is also aiming for a continuing resolution to run until mid-December to allow lawmakers time just to finish the regular appropriation bills. Now, Hawaii Democratic Senator Brian Schatz summed up the to-do list for Senate Democrats when asked recently by CNN when the September work period will look like. He said continuing resolution and judges. Amid concerns that the higher prices will hurt consumer wallets, some state and federal lawmakers are looking at ways to ease that pain at the pump. Mike Thompson, John Larson, and Lauren Underwood introduced the Gas Rebate Act of 2022, and that's going to send monthly payments of $100 to Americans where the average gas price is higher than $4 a gallon. The program will begin to phase out for individuals earning more than $75,000 and couples earning more than $150,000.
Welcome him here. Pleased to have invited him to see the most dynamic